We're about to get into a story that sits at this really fascinating and frankly terrifying crossroads. It's where modern, rational education smacks right into ancient, deep-seated beliefs. This is the absolutely chilling story of a brilliant Delhi University student whose entire life got derailed by one single, seemingly innocent mistake. A mistake it turns out she would regret for the rest of her life.
And those are the words of Ritu, the woman at the very center of this whole thing. You can just feel the weight in that sentence, can't you? The ghost of a different life, a path of incredible promise that was just tragically twisted. To really get the scale of her loss, you have to understand who she was before it all went so wrong.
You see, Ritu wasn't just a promising student. She was basically the poster child for progress. She came from this small village that, really, against all odds, had developed this amazingly forward-thinking attitude about education, especially for its young women. And what's so interesting here is that you can actually see the kind of environment that shaped her. Her hometown, Malwa, had a literacy rate of 75%. That's a full 8 points higher than the state average. This was a community that was genuinely investing in their kids' futures. And Ritu, well, Ritu was their star. And boy, did she exceed every single expectation. After crushing it in school, she got into math honors at Delhi University. Her mind was just sharp, logical, built for science. So much so that before she even graduated, she passed this intensely competitive entrance exam for a combined master's and PhD program at TFR. We're talking one of the most elite scientific institutions in all of India. This was a future scientist grounded in pure logic and reason.
But then, during her final semester, one single decision, made on just a casual evening walk, would set off a chain of events that would challenge every single rational belief she ever had.
The scene itself is almost boringly normal. Ritu and 6 of her friends are just hanging out in a park near campus, and they see it, a big, untouched box of sweets just sitting there under a peepal tree. But there's this one strange detail. The box has 3 red vermilion marks drawn on it. You know, the kind of symbol you see in rituals and spiritual offerings.
And this is the exact moment where everything fractures. Ritu remembers stories from her village, and she immediately feels this sense of danger. She warns her friends to stay away. But Amit, another really bright student, just scoffs at her. He actually mocks her. "You're a future scientist and you believe in this superstition?" Then he forcibly puts a sweet in her mouth and hands out the rest. They even take some back for a favorite professor.
That one act of defiance, right, of modern skepticism just steamrolling over ancient caution, well, it seems to have unleashed a wave of horror that absolutely no one could have ever predicted.
And the fallout, wow. It was immediate and it was horrifying. Just 2 weeks later, the professor who ate the sweets dies in a car crash. He told the police right before he died that he swerved to avoid 2 girls who just appeared out of nowhere. Then, their friend Ankur has this violent public breakdown. A few months after that, Jayanti, another friend from the group, loses her newborn baby and then takes her own life. Whatever this was, it was moving through them with terrifying speed.
Now, during Ankur's breakdown, which happened in a classroom, he started tearing up paper and just stuffing it in his mouth, saying these words, "I'll chew it and eat it." The friends who were there swear it wasn't his voice. They said it sounded like multiple girls speaking at the same time. He died in the hospital later. Doctors said his nerves were severed all over his body, and they had no explanation for it. For Ritu, the horror became deeply, deeply personal. She started seeing visions of 2 girls she didn't know. But after Jayanti died, the visitations changed. Now it was her own friend's spirit appearing to her, tormented and blaming Ritu for the whole tragedy, for not trying harder to stop them that day in the park. As you can imagine, Ritu's mental and physical health just completely collapsed. The clear, logical world she was being trained to lead was swallowed up by this supernatural nightmare. It forced her family to look for answers way beyond what any doctor could provide.
And whatever was happening, its power just seemed to be growing. Ritu, who only spoke Hindi and English, started screaming at her family in fluent Haryanvi. Desperate, they called in this famous priest, but he died in a freak motorcycle accident on his way to see her, apparently shouting that something had grabbed him. Their last desperate option was a trip to the Mehendipur Balaji temple, a place known all over India as a last resort for people believed to be afflicted by evil spirits.
And it was there, at that temple, during these intense exorcism rituals, that the supposed reason for all this horror was finally dragged into the light. And it wasn't a story of some random curse. It was rooted in a very, very human tragedy.
So here's the story that came out according to the priests at the temple. 2 female students from a nearby dorm had been abandoned by their boyfriends after getting pregnant, and together they had taken their own lives. Their spirits haunted the room so badly that the landlord actually hired a mystic to bind them to the peepal tree in the park. The suites were never a trap. They were a regular offering meant to keep those vengeful spirits calm, an offering that Ritu and her friends had stolen.
Now, to really get this story, you have to understand the significance of the peepal tree. It's not just any tree. In a lot of Indian folklore, it's seen as this liminal space, a kind of bridge to the spirit world. So for the mystic in the story, binding the spirits to this specific tree would have been a very deliberate and very powerful act.
So after weeks of these rituals at the temple, Ritu was reportedly freed. She came back home, but the life she knew was just gone. And of course, the lives of her friends were lost forever.
We can actually put a number on her academic loss, and it's just staggering. That year, only 30 students in the entire country earned a spot in that TFR program. 30. And Ritu was one of them. While she was literally fighting for her life and her sanity, that future, a future she had earned with her own brilliance, it just evaporated. But look, Ritu is a survivor. After a long, difficult recovery, she did manage to rebuild. She eventually got a stable government job. But she lives with those scars, the trauma, the grief for her friends, and this haunting question of what she actually went through. I mean, how does a person with a mind wired for science even begin to reconcile an experience that just defies all logic?
And that's where Ritu's story leaves us, kind of hanging between 2 different worlds. Was this a case of profound psychological trauma and mass hysteria where their own cultural beliefs shaped a tragic reality? Or was it a brutal, terrifying lesson that there are some ancient warnings that our modern, rational world has simply forgotten how to listen to?
Welcome to The Explainer. You know, some stories just get under your skin. And today, we're diving into one of those. It's a really chilling tale about ambition, identity, and what happens when you try to play God. We're going to break down the story of a man who thought he could conquer death, but ended up with a fate so much worse. So let's just jump right in with this quote. Our protagonist, a guy named Samir, says, "I too came back after dying." Whoa. I mean, what does that even mean, right? This is our very first hint that the man we're about to meet is on a seriously dark path. It basically sets the stage for everything that's about to go wrong. All right, so to really get what happens in this nightmare, we've got to understand the man himself. Who is Samir? And here's where it gets really interesting. This guy was living a complete double life. I mean, look at this. By day, he's this celebrated, respected surgeon, a guy who saves lives. But at night, totally different story. A chilling obsession takes over. He starts haunting morgues, doing these, well, macabre experiments on corpses. He was absolutely convinced that he, through pure science, could beat death. Okay, so picture this. He's in the middle of this key experiment, trying to bring a body back to life, and it fails, or so he thinks. He's frustrated, about to just give up on it. But right as he's walking away, something impossible happens. The corpse's eyes just snap open, and this really unsettling smile spreads across its face. It's a huge sign that his ambition wasn't just a bad idea. It was actually waking something up, and that pushes him to an even crazier, more dangerous project. So yeah, that failure just poured gasoline on the fire of his obsession, which leads him straight to the experiment that's going to seal his fate, the Mirror Project. His idea was, well, it was out there. He had this theory that a whole parallel world exists right behind the surface of a mirror, and he thought he could literally reach in and pull his own reflection out into our world. Why? The ultimate goal was to create a perfect clone of himself. For him, it was a kind of twisted path to immortality. And then, it actually works. Or so he thinks. One day, he's looking in the mirror and his reflection just stops moving. It's not copying him anymore. It's just standing there, staring back at him. And the really chilling part? Its hands are covered in blood. Now, you'd think this would be terrifying, but Samir, he's thrilled. He thinks he's done it. But this success is actually the start of his own personal nightmare. From that moment on, his reflection starts this campaign of pure psychological torture. I mean, look how fast this escalates. Day 1, it's just staring. Creepy, but okay. By day 7, the bloody hands appear. A week later, it's literally burning pictures of Samir's loved ones inside the mirror. And then by day 15, it's miming slitting its own throat while laughing at him. His own face, his own image, has become his worst nightmare. And then it gets worse. His creation starts talking to him, taunting him. And this one line, "You will be alone with me even in a crowd." Chilling, right? It just perfectly captures the hell he's in. Imagine that. No matter where you go, no matter who you're with, you're always being haunted by yourself. He is being pushed right to the edge. So he's at his breaking point. He knows he has to end this. The only way out, he thinks, is to destroy the mirror and the monster he created. So he grabs a heavy hammer. His plan is simple. Smash the glass, smash the reflection, and get his life back. It's this one final desperate act. But the problem is, he has no idea what the real connection is between him and his reflection. He swings the hammer back, ready to bring it down. But the reflection, it doesn't even flinch. Instead, it just looks at him and says this: "Now you can never come back." And you can just tell it's not a threat. It's a promise. The hammer hits. The mirror just shatters everywhere. But then, Samir feels this unbelievable pain. He looks down, and there's a huge bleeding wound right on his own body, exactly where the hammer hit the mirror. That's the moment of pure horror when he realizes they're physically connected. In trying to destroy his reflection, he's only managed to destroy himself. And this is the climax, the great reversal. The reflection, now a full-blown clone, just steps right out of that broken frame without a scratch on him. Meanwhile, the real Samir is bleeding out on the floor, and that's when the clone drops the bombshell. Samir didn't create anything. All he did was open a door. He set a prisoner free. The tables have completely, terrifyingly turned. So you think it can't get worse, right? But Samir isn't just defeated. No, he's about to become the very thing he was obsessed with. His real punishment? It's only just getting started. The clone grabs Samir and just shoves him back through the empty frame, into whatever dark dimension exists on the other side. And there his body starts this horrifying transformation. His skin starts to harden, to get smooth, reflective. He is literally turning into a living, breathing mirror. His own body is betraying him. And his clone explains Samir's big, fatal mistake, his ego, his hubris. He was so caught up in his own genius, he just assumed his creation wanted to be human, just like him. It never even crossed his mind that all the reflection ever wanted was to be free, and it would do anything to get that freedom. So, let's talk about the rules of his new existence. Because this isn't just a prison, it's a punishment designed just for him. The clone spells out the terms of his damnation, and it is brutal. He's now a living mirror. He can't speak, can't die, and here's the kicker. He feels all the pain that's inflicted on his clone out in the real world. He's trapped, forever, in silent agony. And just to prove the point, in one final unbelievably cruel act, the clone takes a blade and cuts its own wrist. But the blood doesn't come from the clone's arm. It starts seeping out of the surface of the mirror, out of Samir himself. This just seals it. He is nothing now, but a helpless container for his clone's pain. So there he is, a silent, eternal witness to his own life being lived by someone else. And this final quote just says it all, doesn't it? He can show you the truth, but he can't speak it. He's trapped, watching this imposter live his life, and he can never, ever tell anyone the truth. And really, this whole story leaves you with a really haunting question. Think about it. Samir, this brilliant surgeon, started out wanting to conquer death, maybe even save people. But his ambition just twisted into this monstrous obsession. So it makes you wonder, what's the real reflection of a person's soul? Is it their actions, the face they show the world, or is it their ambition, the things they desire in secret? A pretty terrifying thought to leave you with.
Let's talk about Sagar Parthak. Back in 2016, he was just a regular guy in Mumbai. You know, had a wife, a son, did the daily commute. But a friendship that started on a train, something that seemed totally innocent, was about to kick off a chain of events so absolutely terrifying it would nearly cost him his life.
It all began so quietly. You know, a shadow he caught out of the corner of his eye, moving on his bedroom wall. He just thought, it's the fever playing tricks on me. But this was no trick. This was the very first sign that something truly dark had latched onto him, and it wasn't planning on ever letting go.
So the big question is, how does this even happen? How does a normal, friendly guy suddenly find himself possessed, trying to hurt his own family and literally fighting for his soul? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go back to the very beginning.
And it all started in the most mundane place you can imagine. On a train. A simple conversation, a connection that seemed harmless, but was really hiding a deadly obsession.
Things moved really fast, and it all seemed like harmless fun. Sagar, who remember is married with a kid, meets this woman, Simran, on his commute. She's beautiful, she starts the conversation, and next thing you know, they're flirting, texting on WhatsApp. She even brings him into her circle of friends, a group that really love to party. For Sagar, it was probably exciting, something new.
But then we hit the turning point. They're at a birthday party. Everyone's taking a group photo, and another friend, Preeti, just leans in and kisses Sagar. It was just a quick, spontaneous thing, probably fueled by a bit of alcohol, but that one little moment, it was the spark that was about to ignite a huge, dangerous fire.
And the way they both reacted tells you everything you need to know. Sagar, he was a little shocked, sure, but he just shrugged it off, figured, hey, she's drunk, whatever. But Simran? Oh no, she saw it as this massive betrayal. Her reaction was totally off the charts, pure, intense jealousy. She actually started threatening the entire friend group, warning them all to stay away from Sagar. This was the first time anyone saw just how possessive she could be. After that whole incident, the vibe in the friend group definitely got weird. But the real horror, the thing that changed everything, that was about to be unleashed at another party. This one hosted by Simran herself.
So, picture the scene. It's monsoon season in Mumbai. Simran invites everyone over to her place. She cooks for them, they're all hanging out, having a great time, and they even end up dancing in the rain on her rooftop. Sagar gets home completely soaked, and, not surprisingly, he gets sick. Comes down with a cold, a flu, or at least that's what he thought it was.
That very same night, he's lying in bed, burning up with a fever, and he feels this very distinct physical touch, a hand, resting on his forehead. Almost like a comforting gesture, right?
His first thought, of course, was that it was his wife. But when he opened his eyes, she was sound asleep on the other side of the bed, right next to their son. So, if it wasn't her hand, whose was it? And that's when he saw it. A figure, just sitting there, silently, in the corner of his room.
After that night, everything just spiraled out of control. His health completely crashed. This wasn't just a sickness. He was changing. His wife would catch him mumbling in languages he'd never spoken a day in his life. Or even worse, she'd find him standing in that same corner, having a full-on conversation with someone who just wasn't there. The absolute peak of the terror came one afternoon. Sagar wakes up from a nap, looks straight at his wife, and in this guttural, hoarse voice that was completely not his own, he lunges for her. He starts strangling her, and he says those words. It was clear then. He wasn't Sagar anymore. Something else was in the driver's seat. Realizing that this was far, far beyond any kind of medical problem, his family started a desperate search for help. And that search led them into the world of exorcists and spiritual healers. Their search eventually led them to an exorcist everyone called Tai. She took one look at him and confirmed it. A powerful spirit had attached itself to him. She gave the family these very strange, very specific instructions for a ritual. They had to go out and get liquor, chicken, cigarettes, perfume. She then did a ritual to create this bundle, and they had to take it deep into a forest, place it under a specific banyan tree, and follow one critical rule. No matter what you hear, do not turn around. So they do it. As they're walking away from the tree, Sagar hears a voice. It sounds exactly like his mother, screaming for him to help her from behind. He fights every single instinct to turn around. But just as he gets to his bike, the voice changes. It becomes cold, mocking, and terrifyingly clear, taunting him with that threat. Yeah, the ritual was a complete bust. The haunting came back, but this time it was even worse. And when Sagar went to see Tai again, he found out she'd been in a horrible accident. She told him she'd had a dream where a figure warned her to back off. This thing, whatever it was so powerful it could actually go after anyone who tried to help them. At this point, all hope was pretty much gone.
Sagar was fading and fast. But then, through his adopted sister, they found one last chance. A powerful guru from Jalgaon, a man known to everyone as Dadaji.
And this is where the story just gets unbelievable. When Sagar's sister calls the guru, his very first words are just stunning. He already knew everything. He told her he had seen this whole tragedy unfolding and that the only reason Sagar was still alive was because of his faith. He'd literally been waiting for their call.
The guru came to their house and got to work right away, and what followed was an intense spiritual battle. At one point in the exorcism, he has Sagar sit inside a ritual circle. He takes a lemon, passes it all over Sagar's body, and puts it back in the circle. And in an instant, the lemon just bursts into flames, filling the whole room with this foul smell as a scream echoes out from the fire.
With the entity finally weakened, the guru could do what nobody else had been able to. He could reveal the full, horrifying truth of who was behind all of this and why.
And the guru's revelations just laid this whole evil plot bare. The thing possessing Sagar was a jinn, an incredibly powerful spirit, and it was sent by Simran. Consumed by that obsessive jealousy, she'd hired a practitioner of dark arts, a Bengali tantric, to summon it. First, she tried mixing a spell into his food at that rainy party. When that didn't work, she went all in and summoned the jinn. And here is the most chilling detail of all. The jinn's final task was to kill Sagar on August 9th. The guru, sensing this, had arrived on August 8th. He saved his life with literally 1 day to spare.
So the guru successfully banished the jinn. Sagar's life was his own again, his family was safe. But before the guru left, he gave Sagar one final, ominous warning. He said, "A great calamity is about to befall you, and you must face it with strength."
Exactly 7 days later, the guru's prophecy came true. Sagar was still feeling weak, so he went to a doctor. The diagnosis? Stage 4 lung cancer. The physical stress of being possessed had just absolutely ravaged his body.
But here's the crazy part. He survived that too. After going through grueling treatment, Sagar recovered, and he's healthy today. He says he made it through because of 2 things: his wife, who never left his side, and his faith. His story is just an incredible testament to survival, but it's also a really dark reminder. It makes you ask yourself, behind all the friendly smiles and the casual chats, how well do you really know the people in your life?